being someone who wouldn't respond to seeing somebody who was hurt or whatever was purely a disability, because so many people said to me all my life, "What a callous, heartless son of a bitch. Can't you see I'm hurting? Can't you see my knees bleeding? Can't you see I'm in pain? You don't even care." Every autistic person's heard that. And of course I did care, but how did they know? They didn't believe me because I didn't act the way they wanted. And now all of a sudden I could see that, thanks to the TMS. But you know, I could see something else. Now that I could see both sides of it, I realized that if you and me are crossing the street and you fall down and skin your knee, and I say, "Come on, get up, get moving." Maybe you think, "What a cold son of a bitch." But the fact is, a car coming, it's going to run your ass over. And one of two things can happen. We can both look at each other and say, "Oh, that hurts, it's horrible." And we can hug each other and cry and get our asses run over by the bus. Or one of us can be seemingly heartless and say, "Come on, there's a bus coming, let's get out of the road," and neither of us will be killed. And so the fact is, the rational, logical response is what you need a lot of times, even if you think you want an emotional response. And when you ask, why do people like us exist that way? I think that's the answer. We may think it's a disability. It is a disability in certain situations, but for the times you need it, it's a lifesaver. And that's why we exist, and why we've always been part of the population. But of course, we will always wish we could make it better. We will always wish. It's always the grass being greener on the other side, and now science offers us the possibility of making it real. And some people are going to think, you know, that disability for me is just too much. I've never had a girlfriend. I want to have a wife. I want to have a husband. I want to make friends and have a job. I want those things so much, and I can't have them. And if I could do something like TMS and it would give it to me, by God, I want to do it. And there's other people who would think, I'm okay the way I am, and I don't think I do want to do it. And you know, both those people deserve the right of choice. And that's why we conduct medical research. Not to force things upon people, not to make us different if we don't want to be, but to give us choices. Just as you can choose to be fat, to be strong, to be thin, to be weak, you can choose all that. We're heading for a time when you can choose your cognitive abilities too. And whether you like that or not, the day is coming. And this is the first account of what happens. And when you read this book, you're going to see, I think, the tremendous power of some of the emerging techniques in neuroscience, but you're also going to see the tremendous cost. You're going to see how my marriage fell apart. You're going to see how I lost friends. You're going to see how what I thought were sweet memories of an older best friend who took me places when I was 13 years old is a dirty story of a pedophile who wanted sex with me.
Whoa.
How could something be a more stark contrast than that? To twist your beautiful childhood memory into something dirty and ugly. And all that happened to me because of emotional insight. And you'd think, Jesus, that's horrible. But you know what else happened? You could look at me and you could say, well, I was a successful guy before I did any of this TMS stuff. And I was successful. I made money and I did things that worked. But think about everything I did in my stories and look me in the eye. Everything I did was solitary. I designed sound effects by myself. I designed special effects guitars by myself. I worked on speech synthesis and sound, all that stuff by myself. I wrote the book by myself. So, I did things that people acclaimed, but they were solitary things. And of course, autism means turned inwards, within oneself in the Latin. That's where the word comes from. Everything I did was within me. Now look at what I do. Now I go out and I talk to hundreds of people like you. I serve on government committees, big government bureaucracies, to argue for autism policy to benefit all autistic people. I teach at universities at William and Mary in Virginia and Bay Path. I serve on committees for our National Institutes of Health and the World Health Organization with, again, hundreds and hundreds of people. And sometimes people say, well, you could probably always do that. And I say to them, what kind of crazy shit is that? If I could have always done that, I would have never quit my jobs in I would have never quit a job because I would have bombed. I would have had it. I would have known what people thought. I would have, and I didn't. I didn't know any of it. And today, I can do stuff with other people. And I think to myself, that's maybe the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, to be able to go out and do this advocacy. And to a large extent, the way this brain stimulation opened my ability to sense and to understand emotions in other people, it made it possible. But boy, it came at a high cost. And I would think really, really hard before going down that road if I was you, but there are some that will want to go down it. And people will want to go down it for other reasons. People could use this technology to suppress epilepsy in the future, for example, and that's something that can not just make you feel better, it can save your life. So it's a story that needs to be told. It's not a story that's an easy ride. It was a rough, rough ride for me. But it was worth doing, and I think for everything I've been able to do for the community, I'd do it again tomorrow. And anyway, I hope you enjoy it. It's a controversial set of ideas, and the other thing I would say to you about this is the experiences of the TMS have given me a perspective of looking at autism from the inside and the outside. And I don't know that anyone's ever done that before, because how can you ever be one way or the other except thanks to technology? And so the views of autism in this book are strikingly more than the views in Look Me in the Eye. And I think the two complement each other. But always remember, I am never, ever going to advocate to change people against their wills. I am never going to tell any of you that you should do these things. I will never tell you that you should do any other thing. I will never say that you are anything except perfect examples of humanity just as you are. Whether you believe God or genetics or anything at all made us, we are all made in that image completely and correctly. Some of us are thin, some are fat, some are tall, some are short, some are autistic, some are schizophrenic, some are something else that we don't even have a name for. And we're all correct and complete and right. And all of us should have the right of determination to make ourselves our vision of better. Not somebody else's vision, but our vision. And this could be a tool to help some of you tomorrow. It could be a tool to help some of you today. Right now, TMS is approved by our FDA to treat chronic pain and drug-resistant depression. It's approved to treat other things elsewhere in the world. It's something to know. And I guess if there's a final message that you should take away from this, it's that all of us in the autism community need to fight for our rights. I don't think there's many people that are going to want to force medical treatments upon us against our will, but there are a lot of people who would seek to take away our rights. There are still people who believe that we autistic people are misbehaving. There are still people who believe that autistic people, if they can talk, they don't need services, and they ignore the fact that our rates of suicide are 9 times the general population. There are plenty of people who would deprive us of our rights. There are also people who would deprive us of our rights by talking about us without respect. When you hear a newspaper headline that says 3 people shot in a theater in Colorado, and they say the gunman had Asperger's. What do you think that means for every person with Asperger's or autism in a public school in America? It's an open invitation for every other kid to say, I don't want you Asperger freaks around me. And who's going to fight against that? Us. We are the ones who will stand up for ourselves. The reason people do not publish stories in the newspaper saying 3 people were killed in a liquor store hold up in Tucson and the gunman was a black man is that the black community don't stand for that shit. Ever since the civil rights movement, black people have stood up for their rights and what is right. And they don't allow newspapers to publish that kind of talk. We autistic people have not stood up to the media. We have not claimed the respect that is our due, and we've got to do it. And part of that is insisting on the development of medical technologies and therapies to help solve our problems. Part of that may come through TMS. Some may come from medical cures for intestinal pain, sleep disorders, epilepsy, things that plague the autism community. Other things will come from psychologists, counseling to help us get jobs and make relationships. But folks, all of it is driven by you. All of you have to join others like me, and we have to speak up for what we want. So this is a course of action that I wanted, that I believed in, and I still believe in it. But I believe in a much, much bigger vision. And that's what I'm here to share with you today, and to ask you to join me. And just remember, we're all great the way we are, and we got to fight this together, and we can go out and win it. So thank you for joining me. I got 5 minutes before they're going to rope me off the stage here, and then I'm going to go over there and I'll sign books for you all. So you can join me there. Who has questions for 5 minutes? You have one and you do too. So let's do yours first. And yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much, first of all. It's always a pleasure to hear you speak. I have a question pertaining to the high-functioning, underemployed adult. Are you aware of particular businesses or organizations that have really stood out as far as being friendly as employers to these individuals? Perhaps through some, as you know, the big obstacle to these folks is social interaction. Some of them do very well on the computer, however. Are you aware of any particular?
Yes, I am. I'm a part of a program called SAP Autism at Work. SAP is a huge international software company, and I'm a part of Autism at Work. You can Google that, any of you folks want to read about it. SAP is now partnering with Google, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, and I'm actually a keynote speaker in a few weeks at the Autism at Work Summit in Palo Alto, California. So if you'd like to read more about that, I invite you to do so.
What's the date of it?
I don't know. I think it's April 11 or 12. I also teach transition into work at William & Mary. And if you want to read about what we do at William & Mary, you can Google that. And I have a high school program back in our car complex in Massachusetts, which you can read about. I've written about all of those things. So we're addressing that in a bigger way. But you can read about it online. It's more than I can answer in a quick thing here. You had a question. Yep.
Yeah. Hold on to the mic, please.
Hi. I wonder if you've looked into just the healing power of music itself. I know you've been involved in music most of your life. And I recently saw a movie called Alive Inside about nursing home people who had Alzheimer's and so forth. And what would happen is that they would just bring in an iPod and play music of their favorite music. And these people that were practically catatonic before, all of a sudden, came alive, right? Which kind of reminds me of your story about
Well-
going back to when you were on stage.
It's not that story.
Okay.
Okay, first of all, music has a tremendous curative power. Music has a tremendous power to heal. Many, many autistic people are involved in music, and I'm still involved in music even today. The thing that's ironic is the Alive Inside thing and the program of putting iPods in nursing homes for people with Alzheimer's who have forgotten everything and yet they remember the music and the dance to it and stuff. The guy who's doing that is Peter Acker, the engineer who has been the engineer for all 4 of my audiobooks. And so if you go to audible.com or anywhere where they, you can download audiobooks, he's my engineer. And it is a beautiful program, and it's really, really powerful to see that work. And of course, I've heard it firsthand from him. The power of music to heal is very real and it's very strong. It is totally different from transformative power of TMS, but it absolutely is a real thing. And there's such a connection of autistic people and music. I had no idea how many producers of music, how many symphony conductors and stuff were autistic when I was in music. And now that everyone knows me as an autism advocate, I go to a concert or symphony and all. It's like, oh, you got to come back, you got to talk to our trombone player, got to talk to our conductor, got to talk to our keyboards. It's all, he's autistic or he's got autistic kids. It's everywhere in music. So, anyway.
All right, I'm sorry. Quickly, we have about 2 minutes left,
Okay.
and we have to be on time because this is one of my responsibilities.
Okay,
One quick question. Please make it fast and answer as well.
Yeah, thank you. If the boss had told you back at the time when you were working that you were great, would it have made a difference?
They probably did tell me that, but I couldn't properly process the message. I don't have any doubt that my bosses gave me the same praise and criticism that they regarded as typical and ordinary in the workplace. I would not want you to think that I worked for a bunch of cold, hard-hearted son of a bitches, and if only I'd had a nice boss, things would have been different. I'm sure that my bosses were ordinary men and women who, in the course of supervising work, they said to people, Bob, you did a great job. Cindy, that needs a little work. Ellen, that's really wonderful. And they said, John, that's really great too. But somehow I couldn't process the messages. It's not a question of the boss being deficient. It's a matter of communication disability in me. I always, even as I say, we are correct as we are, and we serve a purpose the way we are, and there's a reason for all aspects of our being. That does not deny the reality of disability in us. We absolutely can be disabled, very powerfully so at times, by autism. And that's an example of disability. And that's just what it is. There's no laying it off on someone else. And I don't want to ever think that you'd ever think I'm doing that. So I'm out of time, and I'm going to head over there. So thank you again.
One more time. Thank you very much.
Moderator and for